From the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia, this is CampusLore Live, presented by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined as always by Aaron Murray and special guest this week, E.J. Manuel, Florida State alumni, 16th overall pick in the 2013 NFL Draft to the Buffalo Bills. E.J. is only the second quarterback ever to win 4 bowl games. He played for both legendary coach Bobby Bowden and Jimbo Fisher at Florida State. You went 25-6 as a starter, and out of 6 games against Florida and Miami, you won 5 of them. We're going to talk a lot about your time at Florida State, a lot about what's going on at Florida State currently, but I need to hear some good stories about Bobby Bowden, a member of this College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you guys for having me. It's good to see both of you. One of my biggest memories of Coach Bowden is when he came to recruit me in Virginia Beach, and pretty much everybody in the school heard that he was coming. And so nobody went to class for like a solid 30 minutes because everybody wanted to see him in the gym. And, we were in there. I think I might have been in PE or something like that. And I literally remember like 200 kids being in the gym, like trying to see Coach Bowden. And the cool part about it, he was super nice to everybody, hugged people, took pictures with kids and all that kind of stuff. And then even when he came and had dinner over at our house, just completely down to earth. And, we're all from Virginia. We've only seen the Florida State greats like Coach Bowden on TV, so even for myself to get recruited by him was a huge moment in my life. You know what I mean? I was like, wow, like Coach Bowden's literally in my living room eating dinner with me and my family. So those are some great moments, but obviously like a lot of funny stuff, all the, the funny, terms that you hear, dadgummit and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? But, he was a great coach and, we missed him. And obviously once Coach Fisher, took over, I think Jimbo really took it upon himself to make sure that he kept that ship sailing and get, Florida State to where it's supposed to be at.
As a quarterback, Aaron, Bobby Bowden had a lot of legendary players and Heisman Trophy winners at Florida State. EJ, when he came into your house and offered you that scholarship, was it a no-brainer? Were you going to go to Florida State and play for Coach Bowden?
For sure. I also had a few other, scholarship offers on the table, but, once he came, that kind of solidified it. Jimbo was there pretty much every Tuesday for a solid 7 weeks, up until that point, trying to recruit me, making sure nobody else would, kind of get in. And if it wasn't going to be Florida State, it was probably going to be LSU at the time. They were doing really well, and I liked Coach Miles a lot when he was there. But, obviously once Coach Bowden came in, and just the way he was just so relaxed amongst us, literally just sat, in my dad's chair, watched TV with us. It was cool, you know what I mean? So for me, that made me feel even more comfortable. And obviously he's a man of faith, and I know that was something that's important to myself and my family. So, I was just more than excited to go to Florida State.
Personally, I think we would both agree that we're glad you didn't go to LSU. You would have been there the same time we were at Georgia. But Coach Richt was an understudy of Bobby Bowden, and it kind of sounds like there's a lot of parallels between the type of man and coach that Bobby Bowden was and the type of man and coach that we played for in Coach Richt.
I think it's identical. I think their personalities, I think the way they handled the team and handled their coaches from, hey, I'm the head coach, and I'm going to hire really good coordinators, offensive, defensive guys, and I'm just going to oversee things. I want to make sure the ship is heading in the right direction. And I thought he learned a lot from, obviously, if you're with a great head coach like Bobby Bowden, why not take everything he teaches you? Why not do the same thing? Obviously have a little bit of a twist of your own.
Of course.
But he's super successful. If you want to be a successful head coach, do the same thing. And we see it now with Nick Saban with all these coaches who leave him, go to these other programs. Majority of them have success. Yes, there's a couple here or there that don't, may take a little bit longer or they're a bust, but 90% of them go and kick butt as a new head coach of the new programs. It's because they learned from the best, and Coach Richt learned from one of the best down when he was at his opportunity to go to FSU. And for me, same thing. Coach Richt knew quarterbacks. Coached great quarterbacks at FSU, great offenses. So you got him, you got Coach Bobo. Same thing. They came into my living room, sat down with me. I'm like, holy smokes! These are incredible coaches. They've played the game, which is for me means a lot, and they played the position.
For sure.
So it was a no-brainer, and I actually may have gone to FSU if you didn't go the year before. Half my high school went to FSU, so they're all like,
James
"You commit." I'm like, why would I commit when he committed the year before? Like, I'm not going to ride the pine for 3 years.
That's why I didn't go to Virginia Tech. Tyrod was at Virginia Tech, and I wasn't going to go to VTech after him, so I understood. But obviously, you made a great decision going to Georgia anyway. So yeah.
EJ, you mentioned Jimbo Fisher had come and recruited you and Ben at your high school or at your house for like 7 weeks in a row. He was the offensive coordinator at the time at Florida State, kind of tabbed that head coach in waiting. And, you know, Coach Bowden couldn't coach forever. He almost did.
Yeah, try it.
But that transition happened while you were there. What was that transition like? Obviously, you were a team leader and the starting quarterback at that point when Jimbo took over. You guys must have a really special relationship.
Well, I actually was still backing up Ponder at the time when Jimbo did become the head coach. So it was a night and day difference, I will say. I mean, and no offense to Coach Bowden, but, you know, the things that Coach Fisher implemented, you know, mental health, as far as like making sure we were mentally ready to go in and play games. And, you know, we had a guy like Trevor Moad come in and be like our sports psychologist.
For sure.
And,
great name.
You know, we were doing all types of different things, and even stuff that I still use in my NFL career, you know, as far as making sure that we're mentally ready to go. Because you don't realize how much stress you have as a college athlete. You know, you have class, you have study hall, you have practice, you have games on the weekends. You don't have the normal college life. You all know that, you know. So I think the things that Coach Fisher implemented off the field are what really helped us have success on the field.
No doubt. And he obviously had a lot of success at Florida State. Jimbo Fisher did, won a national championship, recently took a job at Texas A&M, so another transition was in store. And they brought in Willie Taggart. And I was extremely skeptical of the hire of Willie Taggart. I know he's known for being an offensive-minded head coach, but it's a tough start in Tallahassee for Florida State. What are your initial impressions of Taggart, not as a fan, but as an alumni?
Well, I hope he gets it. I think it just takes some time. You know, I've been on teams where you kind of come in, you know, and I'm only speaking from a player's point of view. I'm not a coach, you know, so I obviously a coach can only do so much. You know, you obviously get your players in the best situation to have success, but obviously the players still have to go out there and produce and things like that. So obviously he has the talent. I think it's just a matter of, you know, the ball falling our way 1 or 2 times. Obviously we had the great win versus Louisville this past weekend. That was huge. You know, DeAndre led those guys down the field. I can't remember the receiver's name, but he had a great play to win the game and ice it. So, you know, hopefully these players kind of take it upon themselves to look out for Coach Taggart and kind of, you know, pick their play up for him. Because like I said, a coach can only do so much. So I'm always the type that I'm going to not blame the players first, but I'm not going to blame the coach. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
You know, there's only so much that he can do, but I think he'll get things turned around.
I think Francois is going to get better through the season. Listen, I broke my left leg. I've torn my ACL on my left leg.
Yeah.
To have the confidence to step into a throw when you're scared of a guy rolling into you, knocking you, maybe re-injuring you, it takes a while. It takes a lot of game to get that confidence going. And you know, as a quarterback, when you can't step into something, you're inaccurate. You're not throwing as much juice. The ball's dying. So he's going to get better and better through the season. He's going to understand the offense more and more. So, listen, I wouldn't, like you said, AJ, it's year one.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve.
It's 5 weeks in the season.
Drew, I know you want
Take it easy on my guy.
Drew started a GoFundMe page to get him
out. Wow, come on, Drew.
No, I did not. I certainly did not do that. But if you would have asked me week 1, I would have probably told you that I would believe it when I say Willie Taggart might have a tough time with Florida State this year. And in saying that, we're going to go to our Believe It segment. This is Believe It, where we state what we believe to be true in college football. Believe It is presented by Geico. You won't believe how easy it is to switch and save hundreds on car insurance with Geico. Believe it. Aaron, I'm going to you first again this week. Tell me right now what you believe in college football.
I believe right now that Notre Dame is a top 4 team. I believe Notre Dame is a playoff football team. Obviously, someone in the SEC is going to knock each other out, whether it's Georgia or whether it's Alabama. And I think an undefeated Notre Dame team will overtake a 1-loss SEC team, Pac-12 team, Big Ten team, Big 12, whatever it is. They are that good right now. And I think looking at their schedule going forward, they should be favored in all their games. And I think they're going to be undefeated. So I believe Notre Dame will be in the playoffs.
EJ, what do you think? What do you believe to be true right now in college football?
Well, I really want to just touch on what Aaron said. I agree. Notre Dame, I watched them this past weekend. They look great, but I do think that playing in the ACC, you guys know that. I mean, if you're a 1-loss team in the SEC, I think you're still just as good as any other team in the country. Sure. So that'll be tough to see, you know, as far as the college playoff. But I believe that Alabama's still the best team in college football, plain and simple. You know,
I'll take the easy
route. I'm going to take a layup, right? So obviously Coach Saban has a freaking train every single year. And obviously being in the league and playing with some of those guys, you know, it really reminds me of how Jimbo had it at Florida State. You know, so many of these guys come into the league pretty much already grown men, you know, coming out as a junior or a senior in college. And, you know, they transition very well into the league and they're still having success. So, Yeah.
Awesome. One thing that I believe, and I learned it last weekend, Aaron, I watched that Georgia-Tennessee game, and Tennessee might be your favorite school in college
Love that
football
orange,
right
that
now.
burnt orange.
But, yeah,
Dear to my heart.
I believe it when I say Tennessee is going to upset a team this year. One game that I have circled is next week, October the 13th, when they play Auburn. I think Tennessee
Can we take a bet
showed.
on this? Can we take a bet on this?
Certainly
Okay,
will.
we're gonna
I
take a
think
bet on
Tennessee
this.
showed that they have what it takes and enough fight in that entire locker room, and the coaches believe in their players enough to where they will be able to put 60 minutes together and throw a huge wrench into the landscape of the SEC. So believe it when I say Tennessee is going to have a big-time win at some point this season, and I'll feel very vindicated when they do. Believe that for sure. All right, let's recap what happened in Week 5. And if you watch that noon slate of games, Aaron, everybody's texting each other saying, holy cow, Clemson is losing to Syracuse right now. Yeah. They took a 4-quarter fight. Clemson needed a score extremely late, and they escaped. They beat the Orange. Now, before we get into it, Syracuse is not a bad team.
No.
It's not the Syracuse of the past. They were 4-0. Eric Dungey's a good quarterback. And Dino Babers is a good head coach. They beat Clemson just a year ago. But an interesting decision decided to rear its head. On Wednesday of last week, Kelly Bryant transferred from Clemson, and when Trevor Lawrence, the newly minted starting quarterback, went out with an injury, they had to go to the third stringer, and it took them a while to figure out what was going on. So how did Dabo handle this entire situation? Because they were left out to dry on Saturday.
Well, listen, let's go from mid of last week, or the beginning of last week, with the whole decision with Kelly Bryant. We'll start there first. Listen, the rules are the rules, and he took advantage of it, so good for him.
Yep.
It says you can play 4 games and still transfer or whatever, or redshirt. Obviously, it was not meant for that, but, guys are taking advantage of it. So I don't hate a kid for trying to better himself, trying to play football, being a competitor. And you say he quit on his team. The competition was over. It's done. He lost.
Well, clearly it wasn't, because they needed him on Saturday.
Okay, so what happens? You stay. He gets hurt, you play 2 quarters of football, then you lose your red shirt, and now you're sitting out the rest of the year.
Yeah.
He did what was best for him going forward, so I can't hate him. I can't hate a player for doing that. Good for him. I like it. I like the move.
Here's my question to both of you, though. Would y'all have done it? Leaders of your football team. And I know Kelly started for 18 games in a row, won an ACC championship, took them to the college football playoff, won a great road game at Texas A&M 2 weeks prior. Would y'all have done it? Would you have said, sorry, guys, you were a team leader in your game. Chucking the deuces, I'm out. Would you have done it?
You got to look at it like this. I mean, Kelly's looking at it as his NFL career is now in jeopardy, because if he basically loses his job to a freshman, I mean, how would you think, the NFL scouts are looking at that, So to me, I think I would have. Now, it would have killed the inside of me, knowing that I'm leaving my teammates or hanging them out to dry, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, the coaches are secured regardless. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be honest. The coaches are making millions of dollars. Exactly. And they don't have a collective bargaining agreement and all this kind of stuff. They're there for however long they really want to be, as long as they're winning. A guy like Kelly, he's not in the NFL yet. That's not a for sure thing for him. So to me, he's doing himself a favor by giving himself an opportunity to go somewhere and play, whether it's even on D1A, AA level. It's just you want to put film out there. And so you just want to give yourself an opportunity to be seen.
Listen, I don't think anyone in that locker room
is
telling Kelly Bryant, we hate you, we hate you, I hope you don't go anywhere.
Right.
No one,
Hunter Renfrow today
chance.
came out and said he does not like the rule. He doesn't like how his teammates can just leave them behind.
That's
and
a different
move
discussion,
ahead.
though. The rule's the rule. I don't like the rule either. I think it's meant, and I think it should be good for freshmen. I don't think guys should take advantage of it, but they are. They're allowed to.
Right.
So if you have the opportunity, why not do it? Like I said, I don't think they're not mad at him.
Right.
They're mad at the rule.
Right.
I beg
Completely
to differ.
different.
I think they're
Completely
mad at him.
different.
On Saturday in the third quarter, when they're down 10 to Syracuse, they're mad at Kelly Bryant. Right. Don't get it twisted. And I know you well enough to know
he stays as a
you're
distraction.
not selfish. You're
sure.
too good of a team
It is a
leader.
distraction.
You
I
would
agree.
not have transferred. And I don't think you would have either.
Well,
you
no,
guys are
I know.
team
We're not.
leaders.
Hey, we're not losing the position.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I really wanted to say. That I'm not losing my spot to anybody.
No, you guys are correct. But here's my thought process. All right. You are a part of a team in college football. The NFL is completely different. And if you want to talk about the NFL and Kelly Bryant wanting to better his draft stock, I'll give you this example. There was a draft pick from Australia this year who had never played football before. If you're good enough,
That is true, though.
the NFL will play you.
Rugby player.
It doesn't matter if you are in Division III and you've had 4 attempts as a passer. If you go to the combine or you ball out at your pro day and coaches go, man, this kid can sling it. Guess what they're going to do?
I disagree.
They're going to sign you because the NFL is the ultimate meritocracy. So Kelly Bryant quit on his teammates. He did because he was 4 weeks in as the starter.
You can't get over it.
And then
you can't
left him out to dry. So we will just agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
But I'm going to be watching Kelly Bryant now with a microscope because he better ball out and be a first-round pick.
And Trevor Lawrence.
He won't be. He's not that good of a quarterback. You talk to NFL scouts, you talk to people who study the game. There's a reason why he lost position. Yes, I think he's a good college quarterback.
Yeah.
Very, very mobile. I think at times he can be very accurate. I thought he looked very well versus A&M, but he's still, in my opinion, he's not an elite NFL type quarterback. So I think he's going to struggle with moving on to that next stage regardless. So he's just trying to take advantage of any PT he can. And maybe he will get better somewhere else. Who knows? If he is QB1, gets a full offseason to rep the offense and his timing. So listen, I'm just like you, I'm going to be looking. People want to compare him to Joe Burrow. It's not Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow, no one knew much about him.
He never played.
Yeah, never really played. Is all mop-up duty at Ohio State. We know what Kelly Bryant can do. So coaches know it. I think there's going to be a lot of guys, whether it's Chip Kelly, whether it's Auburn, whether it's Florida. I mean, these guys who run with the quarterback, that's the main part of their offense. They're going to be knocking on his door. It's going to be interesting.
Yep.
This storyline's not going anywhere. We will certainly keep
now with Drew leading this discussion.
What's going on with Kelly Bryant, how
discussion.
Clemson manages it over the course of the season. Another great game from last week was Ohio State traveling to Penn State. This went down to the wire.
Huge.
Trace McSorley had his breakout game of the 2018 campaign, but a head-scratching play call on 4th and 5 where they had to get a field goal. RPO, Aaron, defensive end beats the left tackle. I want to hear your guys' point on this because was it a right play call, or did the defensive end just whoop the left tackle so quickly that McSorley had to get rid of the ball?
He just had to get rid of it. I would have liked to see, if you watched the game, they were doing a great job of spreading it out. 3 receivers, 4 receivers. Trace was going through his progressions. No one's there, no one's there. And then, he had 175 yards rushing. The majority of those yards were not on RPOs. They weren't on designed quarterback runs. They were with no one's open downfield, great coverage, and he just took off and run.
Totally.
I would have rather do that. I hate when it's 3rd and short, 4th and short, and you bring everyone in. You bring everyone in the box, because then the defense is going to put 9 guys in the box. It's like, what? You have a mobile quarterback for a reason. Spread him out.
Absolutely.
And he can throw the football, and then he'll take off and run and get the first down. So I thought it was a weak play call, honestly. It reminded me of the Rose Bowl last year with Baker Mayfield. You don't put the ball in your playmaker's hand at the end of the game. I think that's what cost them in overtime versus Georgia, and this is what cost Penn State this game. Put it in your guy's hand. You lose, then you lose.
Yeah.
You win with him and you lose with him.
Right.
Any instances that you can remember in college where you had maybe a questionable play call that you probably would have maybe overrode or just taken advantage of and got a first down?
Yeah. We would kind of run the similar offense. As you know, we would spread it out. We had so many players on our offense that could make a big play. You throw them a 5-yard catch and they could take it 80 yards. But I remember in those clutch situations, Jimbo always told me, like, I'm going to put the ball in your hands no matter what. Whether it's a run, like a called run, quarterback run, or just dropping back, reading the play, and then taking off my feet, or just actually throwing the ball downfield. So I think, when you have a quarterback like Trace, I think as a coach, you should put the ball in his hands and kind of allow him to just, light up and do what he does.
So as quarterbacks, you look and you see what you got pre-snap. It was trips left. They knew they had man coverage. There was a single high safety. You have the RPO call, but do you even throw the run option in there or just take the snap and try to make somebody open? Because they had to get a first down to get a field goal.
Well, the issue is with that play call, yes, you may have some routes on the outside, but they're run blocking.
Yeah.
So the decision has to be made fast, because if you wait even 2 seconds, then you have to worry about offensive linemen being downfield, then it's a penalty, and then all of a sudden now it's 4th and 14 or whatever it would have been. So it's just wasn't the right play call. It's either we're going to get the ball running it, or we may get a quick slant or a bubble and hope someone breaks a tackle from there. That's just what the RPO is, which there's obviously it works.
Yeah, of course.
In certain situations, I just don't think that was the situation for it.
Well, a team that didn't need 4th and 5 decisions late in the game was Notre Dame, and they whooped up on Stanford. Stanford came into South Bend. It was a top 10 matchup. This is a great rivalry in college football. Ian Book starting only his 2nd game, Aaron. We were both sitting here last week wondering, can he handle this? Can he handle a big-time atmosphere as the starting quarterback against a top 10 team? And, man, he passed that test with flying colors.
Oh, he was El Fuego. I'm talking about 4 touchdowns. I mean, it's amazing how a team's identity changes in 2 weeks. You go from Wimbush, who's a 45 to 50% passer, then you put Book in there, and this offense is now completely wide open. I mean, throwing the ball, then you start throwing it, then you get 2 high safeties, then you can start running the football. It's just now everything is open from it. It's just like Alabama. You want to play 2 high? Okay, great. We're known for running the ball, so we'll just run it. You want to bring a safety in, an extra linebacker, one-on-one. We now have a quarterback on the outside, or quarterback who can throw the ball vertically down the football field. He's a game changer for this team, who already had a great defense, who had a great running game. And then Boykin, the receiver, 11 catches, big 6'4" receiver.
Huge.
That's a great team. Like I said at the beginning, I believe this team is a playoff team. I don't know who can beat them going forward, looking at their schedule. Maybe they'll have a slip up, but right now they look to be dominant both offensively and defensively. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they now continue this with Ian Book going forward?
EJ, it's got to feel good as a quarterback when you're going for 4 touchdowns and only your second start. He had a great game the week before also. Talk to me about how that feels when everything's going right. I mean, when I play golf and I make 6 birdies on the front 9, things are going right. Or when I sit down at the blackjack table and you're just not busting out, that's a good feeling. I would imagine that it's kind of similar to that when everything's going right as a quarterback.
For sure, yeah. As a QB, and Aaron knows this, man, it's all about confidence. Because not only do you need confidence in yourself, the other 10 guys on your offense need to believe in you as well. So I think anytime a quarterback can have a great game, or really put together 2 weeks of solid play, at a high level, I think that only gives him more confidence moving forward throughout the season. And obviously that's going to help the defense play even harder to get him the ball back, give him more opportunities to light up and do what he's doing. So, as a QB, man, I mean, that's the biggest thing I think is confidence, because if you don't have that, you can't play. Literally cannot play. Like the guys will see it in the huddle. They'll know that you're not confident about what you're calling, and they're not going to play as hard. But as a QB, if you can give them that look in your eye and guys believe in you, they know that you're going to go out there and kick butt. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, he's going to continue to ride that wave. And don't forget, Brian Kelly, offensive genius. Used to be considered that. He's never had a quarterback like this, so it'll be interesting to see if Ian Book can keep that up throughout the season and take Notre Dame, hopefully for Irish fans, to the college football playoff. A Southeastern game that I think got a lot of notice last week. Dan Mullen and the Florida Gators went back to Starkville, where he was the head coach of Mississippi State just a year ago, and Florida won. And Florida now has put together a couple of decent victories. They've snuck back into the top 25. Aaron, did you look at this as a revenge game for Dan Mullen? I mean, he went to Florida and
it wasn't revenge because it's not like Mississippi State fired him. So he's not going back there like, I hate this school, you shouldn't have fired me. Look, this is why you shouldn't have fired me. He's an incredible coach. I mean, what he did at Mississippi State with the talent they had, now we're seeing it.
And a lot of fans thought it was a lateral move from Mississippi State because they were playing so well.
Yeah, but it's still Florida. You're going to be able to recruit. You're going to be able to play more consistent. Yeah. You're seeing the greatness of Dan Mullen. Because look at Mississippi State right now. Look how many question marks are on that offense.
Absolutely.
We know the defense is playing pretty good. They're playing well this season. But him as an offensive-minded genius, we talk about Notre Dame, he is that. And he's a quarterback whisperer. And Nick Fitzgerald is a different quarterback without Dan Mullen there right now. It is night and day. First of all, I didn't think he was an elite passer in the first place, but he just does not look comfortable in this new system, in this offense, throwing it, running it, whatever it may be. And shoot, they may be calling for him to be benched pretty soon because he has not been a very good quarterback so far this season.
Speak about the transition that Nick Fitzgerald went through, right? His offensive coordinator left. Now, you had Jimbo as your offensive coordinator, then he turned into a head coach. Right. Is it as hard as it looks from the outside to switch complete styles of play heading into your senior year?
I don't think so. For me, it wasn't, because Jimbo was still very much involved with what we did as quarterbacks. So he still sat in there, even though he was the head coach. He had to make sure the defense was ready to go, but he was still the quarterback coach, in every sense of the word, and the offensive coordinator. So, he still spent a bunch of time with us, making sure that we were ready to go for Saturday. Now, obviously, I know when coaches do change, whether your coach leaves, goes to another school, or just, gets fired or anything like that, as a quarterback, it is tough, because you have to learn an entirely new system. And that takes time, and more than anything, it takes reps, what I mean? So, obviously practice and, scrimmages, they kind of help, but you only have those real live reps in the actual game, and sometimes it's ugly, but, most of the time, guys that are really solid and that are fast learners, they can kind of get it to go and make it work.
You worked with Jimbo for a really long time. What's one word you would use to describe him? He made some headlines this week.
Yeah.
Getting in the face of one of his players.
Intense. Yeah. Intense. That's probably the biggest word I can, could say right now. I mean, there's a bunch I could say, but, he's intense, man. And I think that's the one thing I love about Coach Fisher. That's him. That's the authentic Jimbo Fisher. Like, he's not doing that for show. He's not doing that for the ratings on ESPN. And obviously, I guarantee you, once he did that, he went back to the kid and told him, I love you, or said something encouraging to the guy. He wasn't trying to embarrass him. That's just how Coach Fisher is. And, I've seen him do that many a time. He's done it to me, you know what I mean? And it's even harder in practice. But, Coach Fisher's not a no-nonsense guy. Like, you shouldn't be out there fighting anyway. What are you doing? We have a game to win. We're not out here to fight. We're not boxers. We're football players. You know what I mean? So I felt like what he did was the right thing. Now, obviously, he didn't have to do all of it, but I get it. You know what I mean? I'm used to seeing him do that.
I thought so too, Aaron. I mean, look,
We
we've
didn't
all
say
played
anything
football,
bad, though.
and that's what happens. If you act like an idiot, which the kid was because he was going to go fight while they were trying to protect the lead, then you'll be treated like an idiot.
Right.
I mean, that's how you get discipline in the game of football.
Oh, Coach Bobo would rip me. I'm talking about
Absolutely.
The worst would be
And you love him.
Yeah, sometimes.
But were you out there fighting? Who were you
No,
fighting?
I wasn't. You went out there
Fighting with
fighting.
Bobo.
The worst would be we'd be in a scrimmage, and Bobo was up in the box, and I would screw up, and there's no one in the stands.
Yeah.
And so Bobo would be cussing me out from up on the
top.
top.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I'm just sitting there on the bench, just head down, and he's, "You hear me, Murray? You hear me?" I'm like,
we
I'm
all
in trouble.
get it. We all get it.
I'm in trouble.
And that's what made you the person you are today. And again, I had no
exactly.
problem with what Jimbo did. He didn't abuse the kid. And like you said, EJ, you know that from experience.
Right.
If it happened, he made it right immediately after.
Guaranteed.
And I think he's doing the right thing at Texas A&M too, developing that discipline and intense culture, which will certainly help them in the SEC
what that's
West.
going to do, Jimbo is sending a message to the rest of the team as well.
Sure.
If you're going to act like that, he's going to treat you like that. And so what that does is it kind of permeates throughout the whole team. And hopefully the guys on that team can take that as an example and say, hey, Coach Fisher's about winning football games. And that's what we all need to be about right now.
All right, let's start looking ahead to week 6. And this season it's flying by, but it's getting better by the week. And EJ, a big-time rivalry in the state of Florida.
Huge.
Florida State and Miami are squaring off once again. What a great rivalry. You're from the state of Florida too, Aaron. I mean, I remember watching the games, the wide right kicks. Obviously, I'm a special teamer. This has a lot of meaning. What does this rivalry mean to you?
This means a bunch, man. I mean, I'm from Virginia, obviously, and so I didn't understand the hatred between Florida State and Miami, but there's also huge respect as well. But, all my teammates, man, building up into that Miami week, it was an entirely different, pace in practice. We knew we were playing Miami. We knew we were going to play guys that a lot of my teammates played with in high school or played against in Pop Warner and things like that. And then obviously once the game starts, even the bus ride in, whether you're playing at Florida State or Miami, you see the crowd, you see the people so excited to see that huge matchup. And really, it's for bragging rights for the state of Florida for a year. So that's as playoff-like as atmosphere as it'll be in any college football game. So,
what do you think's a bigger rivalry, Florida game or the Miami game?
Florida game is probably more of a rivalry. I think the Miami game is more of a. That's tough. That's hard to say.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're both huge rivals, but I would say the UF game at the end of the year, because it's at the end of the season, they're always good. They're in the SEC. It's like a Thanksgiving game. So I think that's probably a little more, but I think the Miami game is right there up with, the Florida game.
Florida State's struggling right now. That's not a surprise to anyone, and we're going to get your pick on this game later. But if you were still the quarterback and the team leader, what would you be telling the team heading into this game against Miami?
Well, I would say this is a moment where you make your name what it is in college football. If you can win these types of games, that's something I prided myself on when I was in school. And the good thing for me, I had a bunch of other teammates who were just like me. We were all, wired the same way, in our minds as far as how we approach the game. And so, for me, I'm like, when I look back, I'm 28 years old right now. Back then I was 23, 22. And I'm proud to say I always beat Miami, lost to Florida once, but beat them as well, So, it's about bragging rights for the rest of your life. You got to realize that you're going to be talking about this game to your grandkids, and then your grandkids are going to say, well, you remember Grandpa played in that game and all that kind of stuff. It's an ongoing rivalry for the rest of college football. So, you just got to respect it, respect the guys that have played in that game before you. And, obviously, if I were to talk to the Florida State guys, I'm like, man, go out there and handle your business.
You were 5-6 against Florida and Miami, so you will certainly have a lot of fun stories to tell your grandkids one day. But Aaron, looking forward, and I don't think we have to worry about Florida State or Miami fighting for a college football playoff spot this year.
Not this year.
Give me your top 4 right now.
My top 4 right now, obviously you got to go Alabama. I mean, it's just, they are everything you want besides special teams. So many questions.
Which could come to get them.
We'll find out. We'll find out, can they play? You sent me an article. We'll find out, can they play a full 4 quarters? Will someone push them to have to compete for 4 quarters? That's going to be interesting. 2, Georgia right now. Got to stick with Georgia. 3, Ohio State. I know they didn't look incredible versus Penn State, but I think you're playing a top 10 team.
It's a tough environment.
On the
Very
road.
tough
That place was electric. I turned on the TV, I'm like,
all the white. And
I was like, dude, I wish I was there. Like, that was
it was
awesome.
sweet.
And then 4, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's round up. I mean, I don't know how you can't put them. Their wins they've had this year, the way they've won, and now looking at them going forward with Book as their quarterback, I got to put them at 4 right now. And then Oklahoma is kind of right there at 5.
Oklahoma.
I still don't know defensively can Oklahoma hang.
True.
Kyler Murray's phenomenal, but I think that they have some more questions to answer.
Oklahoma's got a big game this weekend against Texas. We'll touch on that in a bit, EJ. But another team out of the Big 12 that's undefeated right now, West Virginia. I mean, that West Virginia-Oklahoma game later on this season is shaping up to be a big one. Yeah. So we'll continue to see what happens in the college football playoff picture, but Notre Dame looks strong, Aaron. Georgia's got a lot of tests on the road as the season progresses, and this will be another great season to check out when these rankings come out, I believe after week 8 or week 9 when the college football playoff picture takes shape. Speaking of Oklahoma, though, and Texas, it's the Red River Shootout. That game is this weekend, and Oklahoma is a favorite. They are ranked inside the top 10, but Texas playing good football right now. What are your initial thoughts on this game?
You talked about it at the beginning of the show. It's confidence. Yeah. And I think right now, Oklahoma walks into that stadium knowing they're better, knowing that they've been playing better, not just this year, but in the previous year. So there's that kind of swagger a little bit, like, hey, you're my little brother. Right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm the big brother right now. I know Texas had their time. Yeah. It's gone back and forth, but right now it's Oklahoma's time. So that, I think, is a difference. And yes, Texas is playing better, but still, beginning of the season, Texas showed some games where they did not look good at all. So I think Kyler Murray, the way he's playing right now, he's electric, throwing it and running it, stealing bases, hitting home runs. I mean, he can do it all. He can do it all. He's Mr. Do It All. So I like Oklahoma in this game, but I think it could be close. I think Texas is playing better. They just look more disciplined. They look like Texas should. They're getting there, and that's good to see.
For sure.
There's teams that you want to see play well.
Right.
Texas and Miami. When Texas and Miami,
Notre Dame in there too.
Yeah, when those teams, when they're playing well, it's good for college football.
I agree.
This game is held in Dallas. It's during the Texas State Fair. It's kind of that neutral site. We played in one just like that in the Georgia-Florida game where it's split 50-50 right through the uprights. Any specific rivalry atmospheres that you really like? I don't think Florida State has a half and half, but the Miami game's huge.
Yeah, it's
and that
huge.
Florida State game is intense on Thanksgiving weekend.
I was going to say the Florida State game. I can remember my freshman year, redshirt freshman year, was Tim Tebow's last game.
Wow.
And it was Coach Bowden's last game as a head coach.
Ooh, that's pretty special.
Yeah, it was unreal. And I started it, so I'm like scared. You know what I mean? Like the moment was huge, and that's when Florida was really good. Like their defense was stacked.
Is that the rain game where Tebow's?
That's the next year.
Okay,
so this was the year they had Joe Hayden, Brandon Spikes, Carlos Dunlap, Major Wright, so many different guys. Janoris Jenkins, they were loaded. You guys played against we played against them.
We tried to play against
them.
Right.
They were loaded. And that was probably the most. That was like a wow moment for me. You know what I mean? Like I could just remember like people taking pictures of Tim doing this whole thing. They were really good, and I actually I held my own. So it's one of those things where it kind of like immersed me into that rivalry. And like I said, that's where I was like, man, I got to take this stuff way more serious because these are one of those games that you want to win because you want to have those bragging rights, like I said, for the rest of your life.
No doubt, that'll be a fun game to watch. And we're going to move into our picks and analysis for the Week 6 games right now. We'll start off with the top 25 matchup in the Southeastern Conference. Number 5, LSU, one of these surprise teams throughout the 2018 season so far, is heading to the Swamp area, and they're taking on the number 22 Florida Gators. This game is at 3:30, and LSU's a road favorite here. They're giving 2.5 points. Have you bought into Joe Burrow yet?
Listen, he had a great game last week against an Ole Miss team who's not very good defensively. So he's getting better, which you could expect. I mean, he's only started 4 games, 5 games in his career. He's getting better. He's getting better time with his receivers. It's all about repetition, especially at the QB position. It's going to be a tough test. I mean, Todd Grantham has this defense for Florida playing extremely tough.
Yeah.
The Swamp. I mean, the Swamp is going to be absolutely nuts for this game. They're coming off a big win, so Florida's feeling great. Felipe Franks is playing better. But I got LSU. I think Felipe is going to have a Felipe game.
Yeah.
Where you get high, like, okay, Felipe's he's there.
He always lets you down.
He's there, and this could be a game where now Felipe throws 3 picks. I mean, he can only get so many games in a row of playing good before he lets you down. I hope he proves me wrong and plays really well, but he hasn't proven a consistency level for me enough to say Florida can win a big game against a heck of a defense. I mean, this LSU defense it's one of the best in the SEC, one of the best in the country. So he will struggle. This offense will struggle, and I think Joe Burrow, they've played in a tough road environment. Yeah. They went to Auburn. They beat Auburn, a very good Auburn defense. They put up 22 points. I think they'll do enough to win this game. It's not going to be a 40-point total game. It'll be like the Auburn game. It'll be 17-14.
Yeah.
But I like LSU.
Do you believe in running out of steam? I mean, Aaron just mentioned they won a huge top 10 game. Well, top 10 for them. Miami was ranked in the top 10 at the time at a neutral site. Then they went to Auburn and took care of business. Do you think LSU could be running out of steam at this point? Or looking ahead to Georgia next week?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, in the SEC, I didn't play in it, but I played against SEC-type schools. And it's an extremely hard conference.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, those guys know week in and week out they're going to have a top 10, top 20 type matchup type game. And whether it's on the road or at home. So I think, I'm sure the head coach is getting those guys repped up, mentally making sure they're ready to go. And, like you said, you can't get too high. You don't want to, it's only week 5 in college football. I think, is it week 5 going to week 6?
Yeah, going into week 6.
Yeah, so I mean, you're halfway there. And so my thing is you just got to, kind of maintain, take it one play at a time, obviously on the road. But, as long as you're going there with confidence, you should have, some type of good output.
These guys are playing hard for Coach O, Aaron, and I think they see a break, and that's after the Georgia game. Yep. So I would imagine the coaching staff, and we've all been there in the locker room, they're sitting there saying, give it all you've got this week at home. This week on the road, right. Next week at home. If you win these next 2 games, you are sitting pretty in the SEC looking right at the college football playoffs. So LSU's going to give it their best. I would look for them to kind of let off the gas next week maybe, but I'll take LSU in this game. It's going to be a live atmosphere in the Swamp. Moving into that Big 12 matchup, the Red River Shootout, Texas and Oklahoma playing at the Texas State Fair inside the Cotton Bowl, a top 25 matchup. Texas is 19, Oklahoma's ranked number 7, and Oklahoma now an 8-point favorite. So people are buying into Kyler Murray, and I don't think they're totally bought into Tom Herman and the Longhorns.
Yeah, like I said, Tom Herman, this Longhorn football team, they're getting better, but they're still not there yet. They're not to where Oklahoma is and where Oklahoma has been these past couple of years. So I like Kyler Murray. I like Oklahoma. It's not going to be a blowout. I think it could be a fun game to watch. Obviously, when you get rivalry games, the emotions are high. You play a little bit harder. You give a little bit better effort. But still, Kyler Murray's too dynamic. That Oklahoma offense is too dynamic. I like them over a Texas team that's still in rebuilding phase. And the good thing is that they're heading in the right direction.
What's the most important thing in a game like this? I always simplify the game, and I say it a lot with Aaron. Some of the biggest games that I've ever played in, whether it be in college or the NFL, that night before game meeting, coach says, don't turn the ball over, block better than they block, and tackle better than they tackle. Is that enough for Texas to beat Oklahoma this weekend, or are they going to need some magic?
Well, I think that is enough in any football game.
Yeah.
Obviously Kyler Murray is a great quarterback. He's extremely dynamic. He's a scary opponent to any defensive coordinator, any like type of matchup. He's a nightmare because he can run, he can throw, he can do everything. But I think if you go into a game saying we're going to tackle well, we're going to not make penalties, and that's a big thing for any offense. If you don't have the holding penalties or the blocks in the back on special teams, or you're not doing a bunch of pass interference on defense, you give yourself an opportunity to make plays and to, keep the ball. I think that's a big thing in these huge matchups is time of possession. So if a Texas team can do that, I think they'll have a good chance to win.
So who do you think is going to win?
I'm going to go with Oklahoma.
Okay.
Just because I like Kyler Murray. I've seen him play, I think, 3 weeks now. And again, I think Texas is rebuilding. They're doing a great job. But I really think Oklahoma is extremely strong this year, and I would have put them in my top 4. So I think they're that good of a team.
I think this game, if I remember correctly, every single year it seems like it's a wild first half, points all over the place, interception returns for touchdowns, punts, kicks return for touchdowns. I think it'll be the same this year. I think these teams will come out guns blazing, but I don't think Texas can hang with Oklahoma for 60 minutes, and I definitely think Kyler Murray will be able to go off, as he's shown each of the 5 weeks this season. So I would take Oklahoma here as well. An interesting game. It's a top 25 game, but there's a little caveat because the home team's quarterback won't be playing, and that's number 6 Notre Dame, who again is on a big-time streak, heading to Blacksburg. This is at 8 p.m. on ABC, so enter Sandman. The atmosphere is going to be wild. But Josh Jackson not playing. I don't think Virginia Tech has enough to really take Notre Dame for 60 minutes.
I don't think so either. Although it will be a hard environment for Notre Dame to go in and beat Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, like you said, the fans are going to go crazy, and it's a night game.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's going to be there. The whole town's going to shut down for this matchup. But I do think that Notre Dame will go in and handle the business. I think Coach Kelly will make sure that those guys are, prepared for the moment, and I think they're on a roll now, and like they have the confidence to continue to play how they're playing.
Any chance Notre Dame slips up, Aaron?
No, not this week. I think we talk about winning on the road. It's playing great defense, running the ball, and just demolishing the time of possession. Make sure it's on your side. And Notre Dame does it. They play great defense. Dexter Williams, a phenomenal running back. And then Ian Book he's not going to have the games we've seen in the past couple weeks where it's 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, whatever it may be. But he'll do enough because he doesn't turn it over. Rely on the run game, eat up the clock, and then play great defense. Notre Dame can do that. And Virginia Tech, I don't think offensively, we know they struggle on that side of the football. They're missing their starting quarterback. I like Notre Dame.
I think the matchup here to watch is Ian Book versus Bud Foster. Yep. Bud Foster should be able to dial up some stuff that Ian Book's never seen before, especially through 2 games. Yep. And you just mentioned it. He hasn't turned the ball over yet, right? He hasn't played in Plattsburgh at 8 p.m. against a Bud Foster defense. If these guys can apply pressure to him and make him get rid of the ball quick and not really know where it's going, look, that's what it's going to take for Virginia Tech. They're going to have to score on defense. They're going to have to get splash plays and special teams, and then take them, and hopefully bounce can go their way. So that's an interesting one to watch, but I got to go with Notre Dame. They're playing too good of football right now, and you always roll with a hot quarterback. Yep. Ian Book is playing really well. A team that also is playing really well, and you have a great point on this team, is the Kentucky Wildcats. They're in the top 15 now. Wow. They're the 13th ranked team in the nation, and they're going to College Station to take on Jimbo Fisher and the Texas A&M Aggies. I love what you say right here because you're 100% spot on. Kentucky is not the best team in the SEC East, but they're playing the best football in the SEC East right now.
Until this weekend.
Okay.
Listen, I'm just going back to the game, was it week 2 when A&M played Clemson?
Yes.
7 o'clock.
Yeah.
What A&M did to Clemson, both offensively and defensively, I think we're going to see that A&M team this week. Jimbo's big message after the weekend was we need to be more mature. We need to learn how to play the Arkansas of the world and beat them down like we should, and then be able to continue to play the Clemsons of the world.
Sure.
Right.
Don't bring it
Georgia.
Exactly.
It's staying at one constant level, which all the great teams do. Mm-hmm. He's putting this message into their heads. I mean, this team mentally, it's not just physically, but they're mentally getting better each and every week under Jimbo. I like A&M. That place is going to be nuts.
They need it.
Yeah. They're excited, and I like Kentucky. Like, I agree. I think Kentucky's playing the best in the East right now. But I think that train stops this week, but that doesn't hurt their season. They still have an opportunity to go. They're going to get Georgia at home later in the season. So even if they do have a slip-up right now, it's not going to hinder their chances of winning the East and representing the East in Atlanta. But I like A&M. I like Kellen Mond in this game.
Yep.
EJ, you mentioned a great coaching matchup. You got Coach Stoops. You got Jimbo Fisher. Great atmosphere, and A&M needs this game in the worst way in the SEC.
For sure, yeah. I had Coach Stoops as our defensive coordinator my junior and senior year, so I know him very well. And obviously, I think both coaches have a lot of similarities. I do think that Coach Fisher is known for having his team prepared for a moment like this, especially when their back's against the wall, like you said. Like, this is a game they have to win. And I think if they don't win it, that hurts their chances immensely moving forward into bowl season and all that kind of stuff. So I think both coaches will have their teams ready to go, but I think ultimately I like Texas A&M in this matchup.
Stoops knows Fisher. Fisher knows Stoops. You're going to tilt with Jimbo Fisher on this one.
I am. Yeah, I am. Only because I've been with him before, so I know how he is in these types of moments. He's that good of a coach to where he can get his guys, as long as they don't turn the ball over. Like I said, offensively, if you don't hurt yourself, if you don't shoot yourself in the foot, so to speak, and turn the ball over and give Coach Stoops' Kentucky team, who's playing great and who has a bunch of confidence right now, I think if A&M comes out early and they fire away at home and get the crowd in it and keep them in the game the whole time, I think they have the best chance to win.
I've been off Kentucky this entire season. You've been begging me to jump on the bandwagon. Mm-hmm. Benny Snell Jr., probably one of the top, if not the best, running back in the SEC. Yeah. Terry Williams, you keep telling me this guy can sling it. He knows what he's doing. And I've been saying no. Well, guess what? I'm on him this week. Okay. I'm going with Kentucky. So what do you think is going to happen? Texas A&M probably win.
Most likely they'll win.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. One more game. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. Florida State going to Miami. This is a huge rivalry. Hopefully there's no missed kicks. I wish 100% for both field goal kickers in this game. What's going to happen, EJ?
I think it's going to be a hard game for Florida State. I think this is Coach Taggart's first time playing in this type of game. I think I'm sure he'll be ready for the moment. And, I'm sure his juices are flowing. Even like I said, the week of practice going into a Miami game is completely different. I think Florida State's still young to where Miami had a bunch of success last year. They have a quarterback who played well. I know he played well last year, and I'm sure he's playing well this year as well. So I'm still going to take my boys. I'm still going to pick Florida State.
Good for you.
But, I think it could be one of those games where they're going to really have to fight for it. I could see it being, a 21-17 type score. I don't see this being an extremely high-score game, but like I said, as long as Florida State offensively doesn't turn the ball over, I think they'll be in good shape.
EJ's riding with his boys at Florida State.
Always.
Vegas, they're not
Always.
agreeing.
Of
They're
course not.
12.5-point underdogs in this game.
That's a little bit much, I think.
Yeah, I
but
think too, yeah.
listen, Florida State's still looking for their identity right now. I mean, who are they? Who are they on offense? We know they've been playing well defensively, but overall as a team, I think there's still a lot of question marks going forward right now. So I like Miami. I like Coach Mark Richt. I think they pull this one off, especially at home. And it should be a fun game, though. It's a great rivalry. That I think 12 points is a little aggressive. This is still a good FSU defense. They're getting slowly, I'm talking about slowly better offensively, but Miami's just a little bit more of a full team. They know their direction. They believe in their head coach at the moment. There's no questions going on. So I like Miami, but in a closer game.
Yeah, it seems like Miami's definitely figured out where they're headed after that opening week debacle against LSU, so I'll roll with Coach Richt here as well. I think Miami, unfortunately, EJ is going to take care of business in this great college football rivalry. Well, EJ, thanks so much for being here, my man. This was a blast. Aaron, you're okay, as always. And for everybody, we've been at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia. This place is awesome. You've got to come and check it out. Regardless of what team you're a fan of, when you sign in, they will make this experience specifically just for you. So check it out. Thanks for watching Campus Lore Live. See you next week.